as this afternoon for the launch of leading Tanzanian women in financial services sector, an examination of gender equality in the financial services sector in Tanzania. My name is Habibi, and I'm the regional general for IFC in Africa, and I will be your MC for today's session. This report has been a long way coming, and it's been a powerful labor of love, not just for Ida, who leads our program in Tanzania, Frank Adiloro, who is our April resident in Tanzania, and myself, but also for all the companies that have responded to our calls for data, all the staff who responded to the anonymous online survey, as well as all the stakeholders in Tanzania who in one way or another supported the production of this document and their ability to participate in as men as well. We also went a step further because we wanted to see where are the women who have excelled in the financial services sector in Tanzania, and we profiled 22 phenomenal women who have led or are leading the sector in Tanzania, and they continue to make immense contributions and continue to expand the space for more women to join, to thrive, and to grow into the leadership of the financial services sector. Today, we are joined by a group of experts and captains of industry who will be sharing with us some of the strategies that they're deploying to move the needle and to recruit, retain, and promote more women in the sector as well. We also put together a panel of some of the women that we profiled. It was really difficult to select women to get a seat on the panel, but the beauty of it is that this is complemented by a video that we produced and have already posted online, so you get to read to live like she is already at the top of the financial services sector as well. Having said that, our audience is joining us through a live stream, and thank you so much for taking time to join us. And we are also live on social media, so we are tweeting at IFC Africa, #finance to equal Tanzania. So please join the conversation over the next 1 hour. It's now my pleasure to invite my director, Jumoke Jokundukundu, who is the director for Eastern Africa region for IFC. She's a great champion for gender and for our work in the region. We've been together virtually twice this week already, and we appreciate your support, Jumoke. And you will be giving the keynote address. Over to you, Jumoke.
Thank you, Anne. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have to say all protocols observed. Good afternoon. I'm pleased to be with you today, virtually, to launch Leading Tanzanian Women in Finance, a report examining gender equality in Tanzania's financial services sector and profiling phenomenal Tanzanian leaders who happen to be women. As an investor in emerging markets, IFC believes that to enable companies and economies to grow, we must reduce participation. IFC has been working with the private sector for decades to advance gender equality and close these gaps. Our commitment is anchored on a strong business case and also inclined demand for solutions to advance gender equality. In 10 sectors, financial services, manufacturing, energy, to name a few. We also provide advisory opportunities in digital and financial investments. Beyond growth-oriented capital, Finance to Equal Tanzania, a partnership between IFC and leading actor in Tanzania's financial services sector, as to help companies reduce gender gaps across leadership, workforce, and access to products and services. Given the backbone of many economies, its catalytic role in increasing jobs, and its trailblazing example-setting role in most countries, more women are needed in authority at the highest levels and set the example. If women are equally represented as employees, managers, board members, entrepreneurs, customers, and members of the community, they can help transform African economies. A recent World Bank Group study says that countries across the world are losing $172 trillion. I'll repeat that figure. $172 trillion in wealth due to differences in lifetime earnings between women and men. I'll let that sink in. While there is global research for what is needed to better support women in the workplace, local research is also needed to give targeted insights. As such, the Finance to Equality commissioned this Leading Women report to gather data from companies and employees on women's participation in financial services in Tanzania and assess employees' perceptions of practices that enable and or limit gender diversity in the workplace. The quantitative analysis was complemented by a qualitative analysis of 22 women leaders, as Anne explained, in Tanzania's financial services sector. While our data collection period was significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, we're not yet out of it, we're able to draw definitive insights. I'll share a few. Of the 5 companies surveyed, out of a total of about 8,000 employees, 46% were women. Meaning that on an aggregate level, there is, you could say there is parity broadly in the Tanzania financial services sector. At the executive committee and board levels, 1/3 of the members were women, which is in line with McKinsey's findings that companies with 30% or more women executives are more likely to outperform companies that have less than 30% female executives. However, it means that there is no parity, there's no gender parity at the executive and board levels. For middle and senior management, we have between 28 and 38% of managers are women. Again, no parity at that broadband level. Entry-level and mid-level administrative roles are still nearly equally. That is the one place where there seems to be exact parity. Our team found that all 5 firms surveyed had targets for hiring women and promoting them to mid-level positions so that the company develops a capable, qualified bench for future management level positions. Additionally, leaders in 4 of the 5 companies surveyed had formally made gender equality a strategic priority, either at the corporate group or the national level. However, only one of these companies had an on-site nursing room, and none provided long-term employer-funded childcare, meaning that working parents, mothers in particular, had an added burden to manage. And this data, it's not unique to Tanzania. It's not unique to Tanzania financial services sector, to Tanzania alone, or Africa alone. Companies around the world are still in early stages or supporting parents in the workplace. And there is more to be done in that area. Nevertheless, while parental responsibilities are not the only challenges faced by women, not least because not all women are parents, the stories shared by working parents show that policies and practices that support child care and redistribute care across both men and women, like father's parental leave and things like that, for instance, free up working women to realize success in their careers and then help companies and contribute to better achieve parity at the top levels. IFC's research in making the business case for employer-supported gender-equal policies indicates that companies who make suitable investments in this area see benefits in recruitment, retention, productivity, workforce diversity, enhanced corporate reputation, and increased access to markets. We knew when we began this research that leaders want to see more women in leadership. And we were encouraged to find that 60% of staff considered women in senior leadership positions to be role models. This vote of confidence means companies should keep pushing to support and promote women until there is gender parity at practically all levels, not just at entry level, but also in middle management and senior management. In addition to this data, the women shared personal stories, women who shared personal stories provided insights about the challenges they faced, the strategies they used to overcome this, and the actions they have taken to help the next generation of women. I am inspired to read the stories of these trailblazing women who, despite all odds, have risen to the highest echelons of the financial sector, of the financial services sector. Kudos to you. These professionals demonstrate how women are making crucial contributions to financial services sector leadership, as well as to Tanzania's economy. Based on what these women have achieved and their contributions, Tanzania clearly needs more women chief executives and board chairs, following the example of Madam President. The findings of this report make it clear that corporate policies and practices play a huge role in enabling women's career progression. Policies that address issues such as parental leave, fathers' parental leave, fathers being able to take child care, flexible working arrangements, bullying, sexual harassment, equal pay and promotion opportunities for women are key in closing the gender gap. The publication of this report comes at a very opportune time, given the enormous consequences of the global COVID-19 pandemic, which, as I said in a talk earlier in the week, some have termed a she session, and the extra burden this has placed on women. Across the world, studies show that the pandemic's lockdowns and other restrictions have forced women to juggle remote work with even greater responsibilities for childcare and elderly care. Even in countries without lockdowns like Tanzania, women work more from home because they take on more care responsibilities. During the pandemic, many companies stepped up to support staff with flexible work policies and investments in technology, such as we're all doing right now, connecting majority of us from home. This report indicates that employees, especially women, would like many of these measures institutionalized and can be taken up at the at the discretion of the employees and their managers. On behalf of the IFC, I would like to thank our Finance to Equal Tanzania partners, all the companies that share data and insights, the employees who responded to our survey, and the 22 women who agreed to bear on, as I would say, in sharing their stories and inspire others. We hope that through these findings and the stories presented in the report, we can promote gender smarts, gender parity, corporate policies, programs, and culture that help women to advance and help to close the gender gap. Finance to Equal Tanzania is a timely opportunity for companies to promote gender equality while boosting their performance. IFC has worked on the private sector on initiatives such as this and has developed tools to enable businesses to reap the benefits of gender parity. We look forward to continue to work with our partners to move the needle and demonstrate the business case for Tanzania's private sector. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing the discussions ahead. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you so much, Jumoke. I think it's a slight delay. Thank you so much, Jumoke, for those wonderful opening remarks and for framing today's discussions, and also emphasizing on the need to ensure that the policies and the practices that are being implemented by companies are institutionalized even during the post-COVID period as it is. Now, as Jumoke has mentioned, 50% of entry-level workforce is made of women. That means, as we get to the workforce, women and men are at par. But as we start going up the ladder, the funnel starts to take shape. So the numbers are less as you go to middle management and as you go to senior management. For this and more insights from the report, I would like to welcome Ida Sykes. Ida is our program coordinator in Tanzania, and she has been on the ground doing all the follow-up, thousands of email and the engagements, and we appreciate your hard work, Ida, and over to you for the nitty-gritties on the findings of the research. Thanks, everyone.
You can see me? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for the technical difficulties. 16 months into the pandemic and we're still adapting to digital technology. But we're glad that it allows us to meet and be safe. From wherever you are, thank you for making the time to join us today. My name is Ida Sykes. I lead Finance to Equal Tanzania, and it is my privilege to work with leaders in Tanzania's financial services sector, or Tanzania Wenzangu, who are passionate about growing their businesses and closing gender gaps. Without their time and endorsement of our work over the last 2.5 years, we would not be here today. Asante sana. So today, I am pleased to present the highlights of our report. We have two objectives. The main one being an in-depth sector-wide study on women's representation with quantitative data from almost every company and subsector, meaning banks, insurance, telcos, pension funds, and fintechs. Our second objective was to link this quantitative data to stories of a few women leaders to put the numbers in context through the power of storytelling. However, the pandemic meant that our outreach to companies was understandably curtailed as they worked so hard to keep their doors open during this unprecedented period. As a result, responses to our various data collection tools were low. Like many in the pandemic, rather than give up, we decided to pivot and to lead and center the stories of leading women and use the limited data we did collect for context setting. The result is the report we present today. We hope the stories of these women lead to future research which will build on what we have begun. Our starting point for this research is that gender gaps exist in financial services, on the customer side and in the workplace. We know, thanks to the great work of the government of Tanzania, that as of last measurement in 2017, there is a 9% gender gap in formal inclusion. Based on our research for this report, we know that there are also leadership gaps. As you can see, these are quite significant. There's a 34.6% gap at EXCO and board level, 43.8% at senior management, and 23.8% at middle management. However, to reiterate what Jumoke said, this is not unique to Tanzania. And if anything, as you'll see in our report, Tanzania is on par or ahead of regional and global averages. And looking at in our research, it wasn't just why do the gaps exist, it's also why is the gap smaller than it could be elsewhere. We were not looking for problems, we were also looking for solutions that can be best practices for other countries. So, why do these gaps persist? We need to answer this question because there is strong economic as well as moral case for improving women's representation in company leadership, globally and in Africa. McKinsey estimates that Africa's GDP could increase by about $300 billion if each country makes advances in women's equality. So, our methodology for answering this question included a literature review of existing research, 2 surveys, an anonymous online survey for staff, and a confidential company survey with Finance to Equal partners. We also conducted virtual focus groups, and we interviewed 22 women virtually as well. This research verified what are widely accepted as the main barriers for women in the workplace. Lack of investment in and/or sufficient implementation of policies, practices, and strategies. Care responsibilities at home for children, elders, and other relatives. There's also a problem with lack of confidence and belief that women can lead. There's also sexual harassment and gender discrimination. And finally, there's a lack of access to professional networks, mentors, and sponsors. Our findings, though, show that fortunately, there is strong corporate commitment to gender equality through the data we collected. 4 of the 5 companies surveyed make gender equality a top priority, but only 3 have incentives, accountability mechanisms, and time-bound targets for closing these gaps. At all 5 companies, the CEOs are internal and external champions of gender equality. This means they give their time, their resources, and their names to gender equality in the country. 91% of women and 92% of men indicated that being a good manager is not related to gender. It's related to ability and other factors. 60% of employees surveyed consider women in leadership and senior leadership to be role models. Still, as this graph shows, staff still believe that more can be done, which makes sense. If after all this work, gaps still remain, companies need to keep pushing and improving. In the workplace, the signs are also promising. All 5 companies had policies for non-discrimination, equal employment opportunity, diversity and inclusion, and recruitment and promotion. They also all reported that they use gender-neutral language in their job descriptions. They also reported that men and women received the same salary for similar work, but only 1 company institutionalized this in an official policy. There is a sense of fairness in the workplace shared by men and women. However, when we look at family care, we see variation across the companies. 4 companies said that performance reviewers are trained not to discriminate when assessing employees who take maternity leave. But some women responded that they believed that their reviews had suffered due to maternity leave. 1 company offers 20 weeks of maternity leave, 6 weeks more than Tanzanian law, and 2 weeks of paternity leave, 11 days more than Tanzanian law mandates. 2 companies surveyed offer special arrangements or adjustments for pregnant women and/or disabled employees. 1 company offers short-term on-site childcare. Staff were 50-50 on whether their workplace was a good place to work for people with care responsibility or whether it was a neutral or negative place to work. When it comes to career advancement, continuing education and access to networks came up as major enablers of promotion, but only 3 companies offered employer-sponsored educational opportunities, and 22% of female employees surveyed said that they believe their male counterparts find it easier to establish personal and professional networks, either because of where or when networking takes place, perhaps after hours, perhaps in bars, or elsewhere. Not to say women don't go to bars. Now, what isn't measured cannot be improved, which is why we also looked at reporting and transparency. We found that 4 companies periodically report on the gender of new hires, and 3 companies report the average number of training hours disaggregated by gender and employee level to their board. Now, those are the numbers. Let's switch to the stories. We profiled 22 women who were selected or nominated based on their track records in their field, the respect they command, and the heights they have climbed. We organized them into 3 categories: the pioneers, the facilitators, and the market makers. The pioneers were the first to break the glass ceiling across Tanzania's financial services sector, which means regulatory, banking, insurance, and board leadership. The facilitators are building equal opportunities in financial services through policy, academia, development finance, and impact investing. And the market makers are creating value for their organizations, living full lives without compromising the progression of their careers. They compete and they win. Here are some snippets from their stories. We have 2 pioneers here. Dr. Natu Mwamba, the first female deputy governor at the Bank of Tanzania. She says, although I was focused on managing my portfolio, as the first woman to reach such heights, I felt responsible for opening more doors for women. Ruth Zaipuna, the first Tanzanian CEO of NMB Bank. She says, I can anticipate issues and opportunities beyond the numbers to make viable decisions for the bank's future. This has allowed me to challenge our teams to generate growth and apply tactics that close revenue gaps. My accounting background has helped me to run the bank as a business, but with a strict code of ethics. We have a facilitator who I know we all know, that is Landina, economic advisor to Her Excellency, the President of Tanzania. Landina says, in developed countries, organizations have institutional mentorship programs where people meet and check in with their mentors regularly. But I've never had that kind of formal mentoring. However, I do have a network of professors around the world, as well as colleagues and friends that I can call on. Lastly, Nura Masood, General Manager Corporate Business at Sanlam Life Insurance. Nura says, being a leader in this market requires hard work to meet specific objectives and even greater efforts to sustain them. The company's leadership position, that is Sanlam Life Insurance, is a source of pride to me. These 4 leaders, along with the 18 others in our report, stress the importance of hard work, commitment to excellence, and standing out through their work. Regardless of the challenges they faced and the support they received in their journeys, it was finally up to them to take up new opportunities and responsibilities, and then excel at their work. So, where do we go from here? For corporate commitment to gender equality, and our report contains a number of recommendations, but we featured highlights. So to maintain corporate commitment to gender equality, continue to champion the business case for more gender-inclusive leadership. Close the gap between policy and practice. Provide compulsory training for all employees and managers on critical gender equality issues, be they performance reviews after maternity or other issues around harassment, sexual discrimination, or other. With regard to workplace policies and practices, expand parental leave for all parents. Support women employees in making the transition to work after maternity leave. Invest in employer-supported childcare systems for employees. Create and implement respectful workplace policies and programs. For career advancement, provide high-performing or high-potential women with technical and leadership training assignments and mentoring. Support women's internal and external research groups and networks. Provide women with opportunities to gain experience that develop their confidence. And for reporting and transparency, corporate boards should encourage the gathering of sex disaggregated data on key indicators. Those are the findings of our report. There is a lot to do. Our report contains more recommendations, and we encourage every organization to focus on what works best for them. Every effort helps, and it's a journey that we are all on in the financial services sector, in Tanzania, regionally, and around the world. I'll close with a thought that I've had in the lead up to this event, and I borrow from a personal hero of mine, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, who a few years ago said, "Women don't need a voice, they have a voice. They need to feel empowered to use it." My thought is, what if women's empowerment doesn't mean find ways to give women power, but rather find ways to remove all barriers for women's intrinsic barrier to be unleashed? What will change in our efforts if we assume capability in women or anyone we want to serve? I will continue to reflect on this in my work, and I invite you to do the same in yours. Asante sana.
Thank you so much for joining us online, wherever you are in the world. Good afternoon from Tanzania. I'd also like to welcome my panel. Thank you for taking your time. Busy professional women, and you are the project to join me this afternoon. As Aida mentioned, the topic of this panel is Blazing the Trail, a conversation with leading Tanzanian women in the financial sector as part of the launch of the IFC Leading Tanzanian Women in Financial Services report. Without further ado, I'd like to quickly introduce my panel with me. I have Margaret Kongo, Vodacom Continental Reinsurance and other companies. I have Mwanaiba Mzee from EcoBank, Karibu Sana, Catherine Kimario, NCL Advisory, welcome, and Nura Masood from Sun Life Insurance. Karibuni Sana, thank you for joining us. Quickly before we get into the questions, maybe if I could provide 1 or 2 minutes each to introduce yourselves and let everyone know what you do, who you are, what you do. Karibu Sana.
The Women Managing Director of the National Insurance Corporation. I served that position for 10 years, from 1999 to 2009. My greatest achievement with my team during that time was to be able to persuade the government to change the position of privatizing NIC and instead restructure it. That's why I pride myself with my team for that achievement. Currently, I serve in the board of Vodacom, PLC Tanzania, where I also chair the Audit, Risk and Compliance Committee. I also serve in the board of a Pan-African reinsurance company based in Kenya, Nairobi. It's called Continental Insurance, where I also chair the Risk and Strategy Committee. So briefly, that's me.
Good afternoon. My name is Nura Masood. I'm a mother of 2. I work for Sanlam as a general manager. My task is head of corporate business, so I do both underwriting and claims. I'm also a government counsel in the Insurance Institute of Tanzania.
Asante. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I believe we have people from all over the world. I've been told to look at that camera. I will do that from a wonderful angle. I am many things. I will focus, since today is about leadership in finance. I am a strategic advisor, so I serve as a strategic advisor to CEOs and boards. Also, I am an executive coach and a leadership mentor. However, I come from a background in banking, commercial banking, as well as development finance, where I rose to the level of executive for projects of infrastructure finance and regional director. This was with the Trade and Development Bank of TV. There, yes, I was actually the first female business executive in its 30-odd years of history. my biggest point of pride, other than the numbers, because we heard we can deliver the numbers, was in building and being part of a high-performing, high-integrity team. So today I also sit on a number of boards, 2 of them in financial institutions here in Tanzania, so Kenya Commercial Bank and TSL, and 2 regional financial institutions as well. One covering Western Africa, that's Vista Bank Group, and one covering Eastern and Southern Africa Trade and Development Fund.
My name is Mwanahiba Mohamed Mzee. I'm also known as Mwanahiba Mohamed Mwita, and everybody calls me Hiba. I've been in this financial sector for about 24 years, doing different things in about 4 banks, 3 international and 1 local. I take pride that I was and still the first Tanzanian to hold the managing director position in the EcoBank network of 39 countries. And I was the first woman to take the office in Tanzania. I'm currently working at a regional office in Nairobi, but looking at 18 countries, East, Central, and Southern Africa. East, Central, and Southern Africa. And I'm heading strategic objectives for the region. I'm a mother of 3, 2 young men, not children, young men, and 1 young girl. And I take also pride in being part of so many women and men in this market that have gone through me in terms of coaching, in terms of being their leader, their manager, and their friend. Apart from being the regional project head for EcoBank, I'm also a non-executive director for Tambaza High School, and I also own my own company. So for me, I will share my experience, how I've been doing it. My greatest, I know we all transformed, but what I love when I practice is participatory leadership. That's what I love practicing, and I've been practicing it for some years now, more than 10 years, and it's actually pays off. So what I would really recommend or I would share is that as a CEO or as a leader, we need to be very close to these women that we want to grow. First, you have to have the eye to identify who for what, and then involve them. First of all, involve them in the work that you think they can do better or they can aspire to do. Involve them in terms of knowing what are their issues. Emotions, whether we like it or not, is there. We can no longer say, leave your baggage outside the door when you come in, and then we will take it when you leave the office. So we need to be involving ourselves, as we know, as we all know. Women, our work doesn't stop at 5. We work 24 hours. And I think the report didn't capture something in there. It's not only about taking care of children and relatives, there's also a husband in it, whom we can't park anywhere, This is 24 hours job, okay? So we need to basically be able to talk to these ladies, find out what are the issues. Sometimes I know one of my brother in the banking sector will always say that, you know, women, let us know you, let us know your color. When your emotions change, say it, but we can't. We are human, okay? So we need to be able to go to a lady and say, today I don't see you, you're okay? What's wrong with you? And be part of solving that problem. As women in organizations, we are abused at home, whether physically or by verbal abuse. You know, as strong women, you can't fight us, but you can you can mess us up. So we need to know that, and we need to be part of solving their problems. But then again, give them the opportunity to do the work, appreciate, and be that support to push them up. And I'm very happy that in my career I've been able to push a lot. I have young people who are now at exco levels. I have people who are aspiring to be CEOs. I have people who were 5 years ago, they were graduate trainees. They are now in senior management positions or middle. I'm very happy on that. But that year, and for us women, because we are blessed, we listen. Yeah, that comes from the maternity kind of a thing. Yeah? So let's put our ears, yeah, on the ground and help other women so that they can overcome their challenges and move forward. That's all I can.
I'd like to ask Mama Margaret, you rose from a manager position to the powerful position of managing director of NEC. You faced doubts around your capability, but went on to excel in that role. And I remember from our conversations that the doubts were internal and external. Your role was also very political. How did you navigate all of this, and how did you position the organization for success?
Yeah, thank you. You're very right. That appointment for the manager to a managing director in a public institution came with a number of confusion and doubts. I also remember the date, it was 2nd November 1999, and it was announced in the news that the president has appointed me. And this story is very important because it helped increase my confidence. The next day, a photographer from the Daily News came looking for me and said, you know what, we need to take your picture. We don't have any picture of you in our archives, we don't know you, and you were appointed. So that was very good. So I said, okay, I've been entrusted in this position, nobody knows me, they don't even have my picture. And if I've been entrusted with such a position by the government, by the president himself actually, I have to deliver. So I also knew that I'm not alone. I could reach out to people. I had people around me. I had mentors. We have spoken about mentors. I had my former bosses when they left NIC, and I could reach out to them. So that gave me a push, an inner push, which I needed. Someone must have seen something in me, and I've got to prove them right. So how did we position the company? The first thing was to stop breeding. I mentioned the year because at that time, 1999, the insurance market has just been liberalized. NIC was losing business left and right, and our costs were still very high. So we had to move fast, stop the bleeding. Within 1 year, we were able to reduce the number of staff from 1,683 to 651. We were able to relaunch the company, rebrand the company, and we had a slogan which we say, we are here to stay, because all our competitors were saying, NIC is being sold, NIC is done. So we launched the motto, we are here to stay. We changed our logo, we took the bubble tree, a symbol of strength and a symbol of long life. So we kind of marketed ourselves differently. But more important also, we focused on customers. We picked 20 top customers. I had a list of 10 to engage twice per month so that they remain with us. So in those initial stages, that was very critical, and then the rest was, of course, to introduce, which was not there, performance management to our managers. It was not there. So we had to sign with every manager what you are going to deliver and the incentives if you do that. And I remember telling them that I'm not going to the treasurer to ask for a salary subsidy. I'm not going to do that, because at that time it was normal for parastatals to go to treasurer and say, no, I can't meet my payroll this month. Can I get some? I said, I'm not going to do that. You must earn your salary first, and then also for the others at the head office. And I think that worked.
Thank you, Mama Margaret. I think it's remarkable that you could discuss your time at NIC and share so many impactful initiatives and still not mention that you essentially saved or helped save NIC from being privatized. This is why you should download our report. It's all in there.
Over to you, Nora. So Nora, you specialize in a very technical field or sector in insurance or life insurance. How did you get into this sector? Was it an intentional decision? How did you get in the sector, and what made you enter the sector that you're in?
Thank you very much. So I started insurance in 1999. In 2003, I was shifted to start doing the life insurance. In life, it was something new for me. So when I started, I had some difficulties. I wanted to understand more. So I tried to sort out in the groups in other countries if there's anyone who is doing, who can help me understand. So when I was looking, and there was no one who was doing the same field, so I decided that I will start myself. So this is a medical underwriting insurance and medical means that we're doing live. Therefore, I looked, when I saw there was no one who's doing, I challenged myself and I said, this is the area that I would like to focus on. It was a very difficult decision to make because studying on your own, you're not attending school, you don't have any support. It was quite difficult, but I still managed to complete.
Asante sana. So it was actually an opportunity that you saw, even though it was a difficult one, but you did see that there was a gap in the market for life insurance. So asante sana.
My next question is for Noura. Noura, you rose from personal assistant to general manager while pursuing continuing education and also having 2 children along the way. Can you talk about the support system that enabled you to make this career leap while balancing part-time education and growing your family?
Thank you very much indeed. To start with, before I answer the support system, I had to make a conscious decision of studying life insurance where I didn't have any support. So I had to prioritize first whether I can do it, and I did promise myself that I will, as there was no one here in Tanzania to support me, no one was doing the exams. So I had made a conscious decision, I had prioritized, I had commitment, and I set my goal. So in terms of the support system I had, the support system was mainly my family, my mother-in-law, and my husband. My husband had supported me in terms of taking care of my kids, making sure that they have their homework done, activities, taking them to school, so that I had time to sit down and study. It was very difficult. It was not an easy decision at all. Having no one to support me, having nobody who's doing the same exams that I had. So quite a problem for me was to pass these exams. I had several times failed, but I was having a support from my family, a moral support from my husband and from my mother as well. And maybe more than that is that the trust in God that I had, which we practice and we emphasize on it, that just having faith in it and believing that there will be a positive moment for me. So these are the support systems that I had, and I think if you want to achieve, you can't achieve on your own, you really need the support, especially for us women. We have families to look after, we have work to do, we have exams, we have also so many things that we have, and also I remember having a commitment of not having any social engagement. I had to focus on my exams. I just forgot about social, just focus on my studies and make sure that I achieve. And why I had achieved this qualification, because I wanted a Tanzanian to have this qualification, because there was no one, or maybe there isn't anyone right now, but I wanted to make sure that we as Tanzanians, we can do it. And I think I have proved that.
Catherine, so you were TDB's first woman business executive, again, in quite a technical field, project and insurance finance, if I'm not mistaken. How did your leadership style evolve from your early days in finance to how it is today?
Thank you. From the very early stage, I think from school, from how we're socialized in the workplace, I learned that excellence, technical excellence, drive, initiative, and being focused on delivering on the task or the goals really were paramount. And that if there was anything to do with interactions with other people, it was about communications, effective communications. We heard Mama Margaret talk about effective listening. And so that's what I focused on, and that's what I excelled on. There was no place for emotions in the workplace, particularly for women. I think those of us on this panel understand what I'm talking about. There's a certain...
I do too.
So I don't need to expand on that. Only to say I then actually, that became my leadership style. Very much focused on delivery, very much focused on solutions, and unfortunately lacking empathy. And so my style was more authoritarian. Even though I was empowering of my teams, there was none of this, oh, gee, I'm feeling like this. Like, no, park it, later. Let's deal with the task at hand. All right? And that worked for me for a while. Thankfully, I've been raised to be polite and respectful and generally kind, so the experience wasn't too unpleasant for people around me. But needless to say, I started to notice from those around me that people were bringing in the human element. And more so from my male colleagues, I started seeing that. And so I slowly started to evolve my leadership style as well. It's really only when I got to the executive level that all of a sudden I realized that all my interactions were about emotion. There was emotion in every single interaction, whether it was with my peers, when we are fighting for limited resources, let's be honest about this, whether it's with clients, where they're trying to overcome challenges or capitalize on opportunities, or with my staff. So I also realized I was ill-equipped, honestly, to handle that, and I looked for an executive coach so that I could work on that element, bringing in and understanding and managing emotions, my own as well as those of others. So that then helped me to integrate emotion into all that other stuff, which I believe has made me more of a transformational leader, where I'm bringing in elements of coaching, I'm bringing in elements of understanding where people are coming from, what they're going through. So I'm taking everyone as a whole individual, not just as this bottom line professional. Thank you.
Which I think is an area that across all types of business. As long as you're practicing leader, I think emotional intelligence is quite a key thing when we work with diverse groups of people. Thank you for bringing that term to life. Sometimes I even have a hard time explaining what emotional intelligence is to my colleagues or other people, so thank you for that.
My next question, again, on these journeys, is for you, Lisa. You were one of the first MDs in Tanzania's financial services sector, and often you were the only woman interviewed for leadership positions. And as we discussed, you didn't apply. You were nominated, selected. Having been handpicked for consideration in those ways, what put you on the map as a person and as a woman who people thought of when a leadership opportunity presented itself?
It's very correct that in my journey of 24 years, I can count not even my hand fingers that I've applied for a job that I actually went through. It's always a referral, somebody calls me, there's this, and I have a CV, then come for the interview, and then go. Of course, the interviews are done. But the application process, usually, some of the jobs, you're asked to put the application when you're actually going to the interview. So I'm like, no, that's not caution. They say, no, it's a procedure, we need your application letter. So you do that. Some of them actually fill in the application form when you're already on the job. But why was that? I believe that in the first years, I started as a trade clerk at Standard Chartered. And the way I learned the work, because they were so busy. The unit had fewer people, they were so busy. I was the junior person, and then all the rest had their jobs. And me, I just came from university and got my job. So I couldn't even ask them, what does it mean? So what I did is, on my own accord, I saw files all over. When I finished my work every day, I ended up not doing anything. Then I said, can I file those? I said, yes. Can you? I said, yeah. Just tell me how are they filed. So one of the managers, a lady, so showed me one file. Then I went through all that work. It was a pile of documents. So I filed. It was letter of credits, international guarantees, bills of exchanges, and those kind of things. So I learned from school, but I didn't know how in practical sense we're making it. So by filing, I was reading, and then that's how I knew. So up to now, we will argue about letter of credit, and I've never sat in a class or worked in that kind of scenario. So all the while, I've been really pushing myself to know more about the jobs I'm doing. That's what I did to RM, to senior corporate service. I did retail banking. In the retail banking, I did SME, I did personal loans, I did bank assurance, operational risk, name it in consumer banking. Okay, and then I went in another bank. I learned about how to manage branches through retail banking. Yeah. Product management is something that I know often. So then risk and compliance. Yeah, I touched on that as well, senior level, but then you have to prove people. Yeah. So I've accumulated enough experience for me to sit in any position and talk about other positions. So I will sit and I will talk about anything in the banking industry. So when people are looking for staff to fill in their positions, they usually want something, isn't it? Yeah. Want somebody with this. So many times people think about me because I have those and more. Yeah, that. But then again, it's the right attitude. When I agree to do your job, I will do it. I will prioritize it. You will have my loyalty 100%. Even if it means that I wake up at midnight to go and meet another CEO to do business, I will. Yeah? So that right attitude has really helped me in the way. What other thing? It's a social and a professional network. 24 years is not a joke. Yeah, you've seen today, Majid, we knew each other when we were both relationship managers. Yes. Me at Stanbic, him at CRDB. We went to the same customer once. Yeah. So I've had this network throughout, and one of my key strengths is actually the letter. Yeah, I build relationships. I've never bought a relationship. I've never bribed anyone for any business or any opportunity. I don't bribe, and I don't take bribes. I build relationships, and I maximize whatever comes out of that relationship. That's how I made it. So it's been all this. And then again, I have this one characteristics which actually got me a few jobs as well. I am a straightforward person. Very straight. I will tell you it's black or white. Me, I don't have gray. I'm sorry. I don't have shades. Yeah, it's black, white. Yeah, it's water, it's water. Can't say this water is this, whatever, no. So if you want somebody who is that straight, I'm known as a no-nonsense. I'm very firm, I'm very fair. Nora, we've known each other when I was learning bank assurance. Her in Sanlam, me at Standard Chartered. But she taught me a number of things in bank assurance. Okay? So I learn, I build relationships, but I'm a no-nonsense. You come to me with nonsense, I will chase you out. To what Carolina said before, I'm known for that. And I can actually tell you, my MD position, I was referred because of that. So sometimes the things that you have, and we keep on saying, there's one group which we all belong here and have. We keep saying, don't change yourself. Yeah. You'll go to LinkedIn, I've changed my whatever. I said I'm an authentic leader believer. Yeah. I don't want to change. I can't change. You can't say that because I want to do something, then today I will do this. No. Yeah, me, it's me. You take me for who I am. I will deliver on your job, and the other things are just other things. Today you see me in heels and suits. You come to my whatever family, you will see me walking on the floor without shoes and wearing a dera, because it's different environment, it requires different response. But those are the things I think that have really given me the opportunities that I've had over the years. But I'm a damn hard worker, and when I do something, I do it perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Eva. You're taking me back to our conversation last year. There was so much in your journey that I recognized from my own early banking days. Thank you for that. You talked about authenticity. You talked about knowing your strengths and leading from that place of authenticity. That is the perfect segue into Catherine, and this will be our last question for today. At NCL, you serve as strategic advisor to C-suite leaders and board members, both in the public and private sectors. And you also have a coaching practice for individuals and teams. What mindset do you think women leaders and aspiring women leaders need to make it to the top of their careers?
Wow. I guess in essence I'm going to be summarizing what we've heard here, right? The starting point for me is to say I don't think there's a different mindset that women need to have. It's the same mindset regardless of gender. And I would categorize it into four. The first is to want it, to really want it. You've heard from the women here that even when it was through nomination or appointment, they wanted it. They wanted to succeed. They wanted to prove something because it doesn't come free, right? You can't have it all the time, whether you are male, female, or whatever. And this, I felt, I was honored to hear this from a man who was asked, how can women have it all, just like men have it all? And he was very honest and said, I'm on my third marriage. Clearly, I'm not excelling on this home front. So yes, I'm sitting here as a successful CEO, but it's to say that even for men, and it got me thinking that the only difference really is society's expectations and acceptance of what is right. We heard from Noura's story that her husband stepped up. We can't be everything at the same time or all the time. So want it and be clear that there are going to be trade-offs. The second is about those trade-offs. And I feel from experience, but also from research, that self-awareness comes into it. Know not only who you are, but how you define yourself. Also, how do you define success? Right? Because along the way, as I mentioned, there are going to be trade-offs. So if success looks like you've hit your numbers and beyond, then sometimes it can't be achieved at the expense of your team. You've met your numbers. So it's important to understand yourself. This whole journey of leadership. On the way up, I mean, it's hard enough on the way up. What we don't tell you is when you're up there, right? It doesn't get any easier. So it helps when you understand yourself, that you're also not trying to understand yourself as you're going through life's challenges. And in addition to knowing yourself, obviously, then what are your strengths, what are your blockers, or challenges, or areas of growth, it just depends on how you want to determine it. And ultimately, what do you want to be known for, and what do you want to be known for? What's the brand out there?
Yeah.
We've heard from you about no nonsense, straight shooter, honest, and fair. Right? We all have our own brand. There are things that are associated with it. So that's the second. The third then is self-mastery. Right? And this is where now, once you know what your strengths and blockers are, learning the strategies and or habits that will help you to optimize on your strengths. And also to fill those blocks or to fill those gaps where you don't have the strengths. This can be technical. Everyone here mentioned upskilling. And also the leadership skills. I purposely did not call them soft, because I think all of us can attest here. It's about relationships, right? Yes. So those strategies, so that we're choosing our behaviors. We're not just finding ourselves, this is what I do, automatically reacting, but we're choosing how to show up authentically. And this leads me to the final point, and we've heard it here, it takes a village, right? Fancy term, networking, right? And the networks that we have. We've heard about the importance of mentors, and these would be people who can provide us with guidance, right? And we've heard the importance of coaches, and these are people that can help us fine-tune certain areas. And there are all sorts of different types of coaches. Myself, I'm an executive coach, but there are different types of coaches that can help us. We've also heard, or at least, yes, I believe we did hear explicitly about sponsors, right? And sponsors, we all know out there, there are funny versions of sponsors, but these are the people that will speak for you when you're not there.
Exactly.
When you're not around the table, or when you're not on that golf course, or having that brandy, because there are challenges for women to network sometimes across genders. You've mentioned them in your report. And the other one is actually role models that I want to raise. We don't often think about it explicitly, but most of us do have role models. And these can be people that we know well. My mother is one of my role models. So is my father, so actually is my brother. And then there are also people that we don't know, we've never met, but they're just certain attributes that we aspire to. And the last one are these enablers. And I don't mean this in the addiction sense, right? But these are the people who make it possible for us to show up. We've heard about family members stepping in to give care for our loved ones. We've also heard about family as supporters. But then there are also our friends. There are times when we can't have them actively in our lives, but those good friends are their cheerleaders. So I'll almost call it the caregivers and cheerleaders category, which is just as important, I believe. And I would like to end by reminding all of us that whether or not we're doing this explicitly, incidentally, intentionally, we are at any point in time playing a number of these roles ourselves. So let us remember that we are being role models for others. We are mentoring. You can't say you manage people and get results if you're not mentoring. Somehow you are. The question is,
are you doing it well?
This is, so I will end it there just to remind all of us do have a role to play in helping ourselves and also helping others to reach the top and to stay at the top, if that's what we want.
If that's what we want. You are taking me back to 2020 and the 4 months that I spoke to all of you, plus the 18 others. I got so much inspiration from all of your stories. And even today, new gems, cheerleaders and caregivers. You know, the gentleman who talked about being on his third marriage, that level of honesty is not common, right? And so many other insights from you all. I think we need a podcast, LTW, LTW pod, Leading Tanzanian Women podcast. That's the end of my questions. I want to thank you all for taking the time today, for being flexible about the technology. You've given so much, and I look forward to hearing all of the comments and feedback from people when they listen to this. And I think once they download your reports, they'll see why you are where you are, and they'll gain inspiration for themselves on their own journeys. So thank you. Asante sana.
Thank you. Asante.
My career journey and what I have gone through, I think to me, to a large extent, my career journey is an embodiment of 4 things. First of all is a reflection of the goodness of the Lord. I think some of us, when we look at where we come from, and what we have achieved in life, we just end up saying, this is God. But also the second thing is an epitome of hard work, perseverance, and self-determination. To me, I'm a believer of saying that nothing comes in a silver plate. But also this is all a reflection of a true value of a strong support system. And to me, this ranges from support from housemates, to family, to colleagues at work, to mentors, to sponsors, and all the people that I work with. For some of you who know me, they know that I was married when I was in my second year at the University of Dar es Salaam. But also they know that I have 4 boys. Yes, I graduated with a GPA of 4, over 4 actually, about 4. And I have achieved all this in my career. And so this all is really not through my own doing, but with great support from family, from friends, from colleagues, and from mentors, from sponsors, and all the people that worked around me. But also, lastly, my journey, I believe it is a living proof that women can achieve great things equally as men. Now, if I go back to the mentoring agenda that I talked about when I started my speech, and while I may be the first female Tanzanian CEO to lead the biggest bank in Tanzania, my focus really is to ensure that I am not the last. And so to this end, I have taken responsibility to ensure that, starting with my organization at NMB, to ensure that we develop and come up with an enabling environment that will inspire, will nurture, will develop future leaders through a number of initiatives. And one such initiative that we have at NMB is mentorship program. And through the mentorship program at NMB, we all work to ensure that we groom leaders in the bank. And so by doing that, what we have done is to ensure that all leaders in the bank, starting with EXCO members and heads of departments, they have been allocated staff to mentor, including myself. But also I have been mentoring a number of other people in the markets, men and women. We want to mentor people so that we can transfer knowledge, we can transfer experience, we can transfer achievements. But also, from our customers' point of view, our focus is also to ensure that we continue to empower our customers. So our focus on our customers is also to come up with a number of initiatives, including one of the initiatives that we launched recently, and we call this Go on NMB. This is an initiative specific for our young people. It's a youth proposition. And this is targeting students, border drivers, small enterprises, entrepreneurs, and all others, to ensure that we empower them through tailor-made solutions, career advice, but also provide them with a platform where they can exchange ideas and a platform where they can network. But also our women proposition, Jasiri, has been launched recently, and it aims to advance women economic empowerment through financial services. So for us, it's really to ensure that we continue to transfer knowledge, as I said, experience, achievements, opportunities, but also relationships, not only to our staff, but also to the customers and the society at large. Now, I was given only 10 minutes to share my story, and I think let me end by saying that when you become a leader, success is all about growing others. So let me urge my colleagues, my other CEOs in the industry, in the market, that let us transfer knowledge, let us transfer experience, let us transfer achievements, and let us transfer opportunities and relationships through mentorship. True leaders live on in people.
We'll now proceed with the second and final panel, which is a discussion on creating a gender equal organization that nuns involves. My name is Santina Benson, and I'm the Executive Director of the CEO Roundtable. I'm very pleased to welcome this afternoon our distinguished panel. I'll start with Madam Zuhura Muro. Mama Muro is currently the Managing Director and founding shareholder of Linden Group Limited. She has a private business development services provider and special focus on recruitment, employee supply, management, payroll admin, and management consultancy. As an entrepreneur, board member, accredited director, and mentor, Mama Zuhura considers it her mission to develop the next generation of women leaders in Tanzania's private sector. Her people-centric philosophy of empowering employees and purposeful leadership have made her a trusted advisor to CEOs who want to develop their company's most valuable assets, their human resource. Mama Zuhura, I'll start with you, please. In your time with KCB Bank, on the KCB board, you were chairperson of the KCB. You really drove a significant initiative to drive female leadership within the bank. Can you tell us about that journey and what you've seen as the impact for KCBT since you embarked on that journey? Karibu Mama Zuhura.
Okay, thank you very much, Santina, for a very generous introduction. I just want to add that I have expanded my focus and I'm working with public sector women leaders to try also to grow their capacity and confidence to excel. So it's a passion that I have taken on. And as you know, you are the pioneer in the Linden female talent pool, where we're trying to have quite a number of women becoming visible in the market to address the cry of many CEOs where we get powerful women, professional women, capable women. So we are trying to do that. Now back to the KCB journey. Very interesting journey, 8 years, very gratifying. And during those 8 years, 4 years, I was trusted to lead the bank as a chairperson. And the 4 years were very interesting. I had a mission in those 4 years. And one of it was to make sure that I bring to the fore quite a number of female executives, not only building their capacity, but also recognizing that they are there and they have the opportunity. The first thing that I think I did, and I must say it was quite a change, it was creating psychological safety in the boardroom. When I joined, I could see that we needed that. We needed to be like a team. We are building one vision as executive management and board. So that kind of psychological safety where everybody felt like I'm included, I can speak my mind, I can opine, I can challenge. That was very important. But then there was an extra effort when it came to the female executive. I was very sensitive in terms of how they are perceived and when they come to the boardroom to do their presentation, what kind of the board language is receiving them, what kind of an atmosphere, because I know that many women, they have the technical capability and they have a very strong confidence which is latent within them. Somebody has to encourage them to really exude that particular confidence. So during my tenure as 4 years, the number of female executives increased tremendously, and there was a quota where the financial statement published in the newspaper. For the first time they were signed, they had 3 signatures of ladies. The internal audit board chair, committee chair, Then I had the internal auditor and myself signing the financial statements. And if you look at it and you count, in that particular publication, there was only one single signature of a name. So for me, that was momentous. Now, how did it happen? It was not accident, because I had to plan it. When we were doing competitive selection, I would just remind the HR committee to do an extra effort to look out. And then I had this, I think somehow it was also creating some kind of uneasiness. I say, please, before any of the senior management team members are employed, I want to see the finalists. They must come to my office. I want to have a chat and have a cup of tea with them. And in most cases, when they come, and especially when you have very powerful professional ladies coming, you have a chat with them, you are able to reach them, not on the surface, because what we do in most cases, it's when we are looking at the executive and we are hiring them in our organizations. We don't take the context. So for me, what I do in the executive selection, I also bring in the context of this lady who is speaking to me, who is telling me about her career journey, who is talking about the kind of struggles, because I started being in the senior management at the age of 28. I have bruises, I have scars and so on. I know what I went through. So I try as much as possible to listen to them, to get close to what they are telling me. And then after creating that kind of numbers in the boardroom then, I went on building a culture of engagement. There the board is an engaging partner to the executive management. We are not there to catch someone for doing some mistake. We are there to add value and wisdom. Another thing that I brought into that board was never a vote during my tenure as a leader, because I used to believe I need to really have the stakeholders understand where we want to go. Outside the board meeting, we'll have some discussion. I come to the board having 60% kind of support, and then I need about 40% to go. But then facilitating the discourse in the board to arrive at what we call collective wisdom. So I can't remember having any voting in that board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mama Zura, for those insights. I think you've also set up the stage for additional panelists to feed into that. I'd now like to come to Mr. Abdul Majid Nsekela. Mr. Abdul Majid has rejoined CRDB in October 2018 as the CEO and Managing Director, previously from NMB, where he worked for 10 years as the business head at retail. And Abdul Majid started his banking career at CRDB originally in 1997. Mr. Abdul Majid holds a master's degree in business administration, and he's also an alumnus of Institute of Finance and Management, where he graduated with an advanced diploma in banking. Mr. Nsekela, at CRDB, you have partnered with IFC to train 100 women in middle management in confidence and capacity building. We've heard Mama Zuhura talk about the psychological challenge. So this is something I think that's intrinsically connected. What was the motivation for you embarking on this initiative? And although it's recently concluded, are you able to see any impact out of this initiative?
Thank you very much, Tina. Thank you very much. As you rightly said, because I've been in the banking sector for 24 years. Basically, CRDB was my first employer. So I started my career at CRDB, spent my 11 years at CRDB, and I left. Over the period during my career, but I've grown to the level of being a CEO, and luckily enough, I went back to CRDB. Of course, one of the surprising moments was that there was my colleagues who I joined with in CRDB, and they were tellers. The time I was going back, they were still officers and tellers. And these are ladies. So initially, when you look at CRDB having about 3,600 employees, and when you look at the top management level, there is likely only one woman, I think equality becomes a challenge. And me as a CEO, I thought it's very important to look at. And even before engaging with IFC, I started the program within the bank, which is called She Initiatives. Just called the lead management, that is heads of departments, women's, and emerging managers. And I had a session a day. Because the reason that when I went to CRDB, I went with the full transformation journey, changing the operating model, changing the dynamics around the bank. And there was a lot of opportunities. And when we have opportunities, we tend to believe that internal candidates will always apply, but very few. None of them apply. And some of them who are appointed as acting for the positions, when the position was put on the market, they never applied because they were not able to. And I had a conversation with, why are you not applying? Because I trust you and I think you can. Of course, the confidence level wasn't there. So, apart from these programs, we have been working with IFC in different areas. And recently, we actually have to commend IFC and thank them because they came to us with a program for capacity building and people confidence. So I picked about 100 ladies, which I believe they are very strong, dynamic, very technically savvy, and these are the future leaders. So the purpose of that program was, first of all, to create awareness within the bank that you have a talent. Even the joint program makes you believe that you are among the talented ladies. But number two was to build excellence, capabilities among those selected women, to believe themselves and see the possibility of creating a pool of confident ladies. Because in different projects, you see different ladies with very talented, but they have not been given opportunity. So it's all about confidence. And the third one was to create a room for being coached. Because having a partner like IFC, we believe the exposure, the confidence, and technicalities will enable our staff to grow. So this program has been a success, and I will say so. Because of recently, they have graduated. But I'm happy to say, for example, within the pool of 100, as of now, 4 of them have been promoted to the managerial level. And then we have appointed another 2 ladies managing our quality complex but very unveiling projects for the bank. One is the cultural transformation journey for the entire bank, changing the cultural behavior for the whole bank, how we serve customers, how we operate, how we see the business. It is led by Nike. But CRDB is also operating in Burundi, and soon we'll be going to Congo. So the project of the regional expansions has been invested to the lady. She's now leading the programs for us to move to Congo, and she's doing well. So that's one of the success. But the other success factor is that within the branch management, I deliberately decided to have at least 50-50. So I selected about 5 branch managers from the pool, given the branches. They have never been a branch manager. But the same program, of course, has assisted them to understand the leadership dynamics. And as for my general assessment, when you look on their branch management, there is quite a big improvement. So to me, it's a success. And I believe that CRDB gender equality, we have about almost 3,600. 57% are men, 43 are women. I would like to see most of ladies at the top. But leaders, you have to support them to reach there. So I want to thank IFC for the support. And I see this just the beginning, and I believe we'll be able to have more leaders. I always say to my team that you don't need to lead CRDB to be a leader. There is so many opportunities in CRDB, but there are so many opportunities up there. My role is to create more leaders. If I see someone who has been working with me, that is leading a certain institutions, for me it's a success. So we create alumni of whether CRDB or where my role is to promote those leaders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, much, Abdulmajid. I think we're starting to see some running themes here. We've heard from both you and Mahazura about the role of leadership and how critical it is, and deliberate intervention. Along those journeys, they're quite different. So CRDB is in the beginning stages of really starting this journey, and at KCBT we're seeing that they've seen some success. So that will lead me to Mr. Sanjay Rugani. Sanjay is the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank, and I'll also mention that he's my chairman of CEO Roundtable. Sanjay joined the bank in Tanzania in 1999 as a manager of business finance support. He served until 2001, where he took up the role of regional finance manager in Africa on international assignment as well in the UK. Over the years, Sanjay has held senior roles, and until his appointment as CEO, Sanjay was Standard Chartered's head of FSC, interim for India, as well as head of finance operations and change management. Sanjay is credited with driving the financial transformation agenda and change management initiatives across Africa. Beyond Standard Chartered, Sanjay is a leader in Tanzania's business community, having many seats on the boards of various boards, including co-chairing Association of Tanzanian Employers and of course chairing the CEO Roundtable. Sanjay, karibu on your journey at Standard Chartered, and specifically here for Tanzania. We've seen the female leadership journey show some significant success. We've seen in the IFC report, there's 22 women who are featured. 5 of them are Standard Chartered alumni. That's very impressive. Can you tell us about the interventions that have happened at Standard Chartered over the course of the years that have actually allowed women in leadership positions to excel?
Thank you, and I think it's an absolute pleasure to, work with and feature in this, very auspicious engagement. I do want to commend the IFC team because I think they are bringing to the forefront issues that are very pertinent. These are global issues, whether it is gender balance, diversity and inclusion. As a business leader and as a community leader, these are very important because the more we integrate, the more we see value. When we say more we see value, from a business perspective, research says that when you integrate gender as part of the equation, and I'm very privileged that I have colleagues here who all believe in it, you actually see profits of more than 26% growth in your business. Now for Standard Chartered Bank, personally having been part of the bank in Tanzania for over 22 years, what is very exciting is that I specifically remember 20 years ago, this became the forefront of our organizational agenda. And for us, it's 3 things really that drives, whether it's gender balance or just, really respecting human beings. People are the biggest asset that we have as an organization, and I think that's true for everybody else. But then if you create the diversity and inclusion aspect as part of the equation, you can only get exponential outcomes. So 20 years ago, we created a strategy. Remember, we are in Tanzania, 104 years old now. And I can proudly say that where we sit today, 53% of my staff are women, 47 are men. Globally for Standard Chartered Bank, this is a big agenda. 46% of our staff globally are women. We've made multiple commitments globally, to the UN Women Principles, including to the Her Majesty article in the UK, that generally overall our leadership team will have at least 30% women in leadership. For Tanzania it's just over 40%, so we are excited about it. But it's all really about 3 things. So it's about policies, it's about practices, and it's about purpose. When you say the IFC report, so the IFC report actually talks about family-friendly policies that we have embraced. What does that mean? So the working environment in general, the respect that a staff gets as soon as they are on board in the bank, because they become part of a global family, more than 80,000 people in the world. We have the same brand, we have the same standards, we have the same principles, which are world-class across board, which are very important. And suddenly somebody doesn't feel he's just part of Tanzania, but he or she is part of the world. very important also for us is the practices we have embraced. So we have a very articulate diversity and inclusion policy. We have a very quality but purposeful leadership model to look at, how progression will happen, including with gender balances and equation. But other simple, subtle things that are very important for humanity in general are also very critical to us. So work-life balance, flexible working environment. In current days of pandemic, working from home. Even today, 60% of my staff work from home. We are also very clear that women have specific needs. So what are those needs? Including having a women network in our organization, the kind of learning they do, the kind of leadership courses that they go through, are all very, very critical. We also believe that one of the most beautiful things that happens in any family is just becoming a parent. And for Standard Chartered Bank, this is a moment to not only respect our staff, but to celebrate them. So we've got one of the best leave policies. Actually, it's a 5-month maternity leave for women. And we also have a paternity leave of 2 weeks for men. It actually allows them to bond with the kid. Now I'm saying this is family friendly. We have activities that happen every year where we actually bring in the family, celebrate them. So 3 things, like I said, for us it's really a lot of policies, practices, but purpose. Let me spend a little bit time on purpose. I think many organizations tell people what to do and how to do. We also spend time telling them why you should do it. And it's not about business. It is about making the world a better place to live in. So that's why we have better practices. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjay, for those insights. That will lead us to Mr. Julius Magabe, who is our 4th panelist this afternoon. Julius is Regional Executive East Africa for Sanlam Pan Africa and is responsible for the businesses in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. Seasoned insurer with over 22 years experience in insurance and risk management, 18 of which have been at senior management level. Julius joined Sanlam in 2007 as head of corporate business in Tanzania and was appointed CEO and managing director of the business in 2010. Julius, if I may come to you in terms of culture, picking up from Sanjay's comments as well, the importance of culture. Can you tell us the specific strategies that have been adopted by Sanlam, and what are the tools that you use to both recruit and retain women, as well as promote them at Sanlam? What successes have you seen from some of these strategies? And perhaps maybe if you can give us insights in terms of within the regional space, what is Tanzania doing or could do more of that to enhance female leadership?
Thanks, Santina. Let me start with the culture subject. And from a culture point of view, it's a two-pronged aspect. I mean, there's societal culture and there's corporate culture. Now, for many years, as we know, our African culture has been male-dominated. But I think over the years, corporate culture has done very well, to dilute that. And I can say we've come a long way to the extent that our corporate culture, does embrace diversity, gender diversity, quite a bit. But a lot more can be done. So yes, culture has got influence. But from where I'm sitting and the businesses I look after, I would see societal culture taking a back seat, and it's corporate culture that drives the direction as far as gender diversity is concerned. From a Sanlam point of view, and maybe starting with Sanlam Tanzania, we obviously have a policy that guides us as far as gender diversity is concerned. But having policy is one thing. It's just a piece of paper. It's only as good as how deliberate you are, in driving diversity within your organization. For us, diversity is not only gender; it includes race, and all the other aspects around diversity. But singling out gender, we've been very, very deliberate as an organization in terms of sticking to what our diversity policy says relative to us encouraging women, in the workforce. Now, for us, in terms of a strategy that has allowed us to have a balanced 75% of our workforce is women. But that's across, at all levels in the organization. 40% are in EXCO. Middle-level managers, 50% is women. In terms of our succession pool, to the key roles in the organization, starting from EXCO to middle level, it's all 50% of the successors, on the list are women. So we are quite deliberate that way. Now, the question around the strategy we've applied and how that has, allowed us to be that successful from gender balance is really just the the effort we put to have women in leadership. These women have become voices, for fellow women. Our decisions around recruitment, having a 40%, women in EXCO means that our decisions around recruitment will definitely, have the voice of the women in our leadership, in terms of the resources we attract. Now, we don't have a very big, employee staff complement, around 300. Now, with that kind of complement, if you exclude, staff who are, at lower levels, staff who are at middle-level manager going all the way up to EXCO, our approach, by and large, is headhunting. We do a lot of headhunting, of course, in places where we need to advertise, we do advertise, but headhunting with an organization which has the composition we have allows us to attract a lot of women talent. And we've been quite deliberate in their development and retention. We have put all our women leaders. Of course, I'm not saying that the male leaders don't get the same opportunity, but we've been quite deliberate, on the women's side, where all of them have undergone, special, leadership and development programs relative to their, to their level of, of leadership in the organization, and that has allowed us, to continue improving their, their ability. But from a retention point of view, we are equally, quite deliberate on the retention, and the rewards that we offer them. But we also challenge them, just like their male colleagues. They are challenged in the same way that their male colleagues are challenged, and they equally are given opportunity to challenge their male, their male colleagues. And we have built a team of very, very, strong women leaders, but women employees as well in the organization. So in terms of success, I can cite that the bulk of the EXCO colleagues that I have now, I'm glad to have been part of their recruitment. They joined the company at lower levels. Today they sit, at an EXCO level, and that gives you a lot of, comfort. Being able to see them grow to the level of yourself sitting on the same seat at EXCO. That's one success. We've been able to grow women in our organization who've taken CEO roles. In another organization, I'm actually quite proud that the only local CEO, insurance local CEO who's a lady, is a product of Sanlam. I always talk about that quite proudly. But that is how deliberate we are. Actually, I would really love to share a 2-minute story around that lady. If you allow me. And this leads back to what Majid and Sanjay said about leadership. So many years ago, when this lady had an opportunity to join another organization, she had just returned from a 1-year executive development program in South Africa, where I had financed this as a CEO. And I think just a week after the lady landed, she also landed an opportunity. So she came to me and said, "Listen, I really don't know what to tell you. I don't know where to start because I know how much question I ask myself is, I can probably match what she's being offered, with the other, with the other employer, but she's still remaining in the role she is now. There she has two benefits. She's growing in her career. Of course, she's got other benefits, but the fact that she's growing in her career as a leader, I think that's, I thought it was something that ought to support. And I think through that, she has equally supported a lot of other women, to equally grow. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Julius, for those insights and the statistics coming back to deliberate measures and leadership, really. I'd like to now maybe circle back to Mama Zuhura. I'm really touching on something that Abdul Majid had mentioned. And maybe I'd follow up with this question and ask each of the panelists to just make a comment, maybe 1 minute comment as time is coming up. But mentorship and coaching, we've heard it touched on very lightly. I think the previous panel spoke about it, and we also heard Ruth touching on it when she was doing her chat. How is this contributing to women's roles as they move in leadership positions? And is there enough of it happening in Tanzania? And maybe even to the panel directly, what more can CEOs do in terms of ensuring that women along the journey, not just in leadership positions, but in middle management as well, have the right coaching and mentorship available to them to help them address some of the issues and challenges that we heard, whereby they don't think they're right for the role, they're not coming up, stepping up, and require interventions. Who is there to support them along that journey? Do we have enough? What more can we do? Karim Mamazura, I'll start with you. 1 minute, please, for each panelist.
Okay, thank you. You are my example. Yeah, I'm saying so because mentorship and coaching is very, very important. In our culture, in the corporate culture in Tanzania, it is not very popular. But if you go to other markets, it's so popular because mentorship and coaching is not only the value you get from the mentor, but also the network that mentor open for you, but also the connections, the promotion, they speak on your behalf in the corridors where you cannot live. And many professionals in this market have not realized that. In this market, I've been doing that quite a lot. And I started with the job. I said, look here, you are my example, because many women, you have seen and you can see they can move. You take them to a coffee bar, you say, you know what, Miss A, you're ready? And they say, really? Then I tell them, you are ready. Because the issue here, it is the excuses that many women say, maybe I wait until my child, they grew up when I was doing my career. Then when you give them a powerful story about what you had to go through, how you balance, that is really where you are able to reach them. That is one aspect when they want to grow. But then when they are in, because the issue is, getting them in, it's one thing, retaining. Because some of the women, they say it is too much. I just want to throw in the towel. They also come to me when they're thinking about throwing in the towel. And my question to them, what will you there? What story are you going to tell your son? What story are you going to tell your daughter 5 years down the line? That you crabbed under pressure and you had to quit? Tell me that story. So I take them forward about 3 years, 5 years to come and say, tell me that story. Will you be proud of that story? So there are two issues. One issue is to help them to overcome the doubts, to get in. But then after they get in, there must be a sustained, program to give them some kind of a shoulder where they can go back. They can be, Now the problem we are having, we don't have so much a wide network of women professionals and leaders. Compared to the male club where they meet, where they give each other confidence or whatever, we have not grown. And many research, they say, if we really want to bring women to the arena, we must get them there so that they can bring other women into those arenas. My story in KCB, I was able to bring in many other women because I was given that opportunity. But when you are given that opportunity, you must be intentional that I want to open the door. And when they have come in, even when I'm introducing a female executive, I'll be very flamboyant. I talk about their achievements. And they used to love it because I'll go on, coloring them, just to remind them, these are the things, these are the games that you have not seen. So it is very important to sustain that momentum of coaching and support.
Thank you very much, Mama Zuhura. So just following on from that, Julia's pretty translated into more mentorship and coaching for that female quotient that you have improved.
Yeah, what I can say is that one, it's a true success story for us. And if I see the amount of women-to-women engagement in terms of the elders or the more senior empowering the juniors or the younger, there's quite a bit of that in our, in our organization. And it now flows naturally, that the more senior women in our organization and the more, the elder ones do deliberately make an effort, to support the junior and, up and coming, managers or leaders.
Excellent. Abdul Majd, have you seen a change? You made some deliberate leadership interventions when you returned to CRDB. How has that impacted mentorship and coaching within your exco?
I think for me, when you speak about coaching and mentorship, it's not about creating a person who is experienced to coach or to guide. I think it's all about creating environment, which is purely gives everyone equal opportunity to excel. If I give you an example, I think when I went to the board meetings at that time, I was told that the only person who speaks is CEO. And that means the rest of the management team, even though they have a report, they won't be able to speak about it. And that scares away their confidence. That's what it's about. And then I had the management meeting. I said, you need to prepare yourself for next board because I'll let you speak, but obviously I'll be backing you. And that was a very testing moment for some of them. And when we had a conversation with the board member, I said, if you look on our management, either top, middle, and upcoming, we have so many ladies who are talented. I don't have opportunity for them to show their confidence, what they know. So I started challenging all my leadership team. Number one, because you're already director. In the X committee, you don't need to speak. If you have a topic of your subject based on the business, come up with one lady who is either a manager or head of department, and you will speak about the performance of the department. And through the conversations, I always have tough questions, but more building confidence or exposing the person to the next level. We finished with the management level. I went back to the board, I said, we have some good, talented women. They are current of departments. When you speak about succession plan, when you start knowing them. So, in the board meeting, different committees, I said, I will pick some of the ladies to present a certain topic, which are for the purpose, which is intended for the board to get it approved. And that's why when I was referring that, for example, the recent two key projects, one was about cultural transformations, I just appointed the head of department to present the board. And the entire board said, we don't need the consultants, you're going to be around. That was the first time to give her much confidence, even the other colleagues. So for me, when you speak about coaching, first of all, as the leaders, you need to create environment and try to be friendly in the conversations with your colleagues. But also go around, not only on the exco level, treat everyone equally, because when you have a time with your leadership or upcoming management, ask them to challenge you. Ask to challenge everyone. So within CRDB, the way I've created is that there is no boss. That's my first argument. Whoever is an employee, in case you're in the meetings and there is something being discussed, you feel that it can be improved, challenge. And that was one of the motivating starting within the organizations.
Thank you very much, Abdulmaj. So finally, Sanjay, I'll come to you. I know mentorship and coaching, you're personally passionate about that. Can you tell us what your journey has been in terms of how that has impacted your leadership journey, and now why you are really driving the mentorship and coaching and how it can impact women in leadership positions?
So I can tell you that I wouldn't be sitting here if I was not coached and mentored. And I will not go forward if I'm not being coached or mentored. So that's a must. You talked about coaching and mentorship. Is it necessary? I think it's a must. The role, and Mama Zura spoke elaborately, so I won't repeat. You know, it's very important that there are two aspects of coaching and mentorship. Well, three aspects. One is you need to have it. Two is when you go through coaching and mentorship, there are real constraints or obstacles that you unlock and unlock your potential. But what is also important in the case of gender, and particularly in Tanzania, is I think women also need to unlock their own personal, constraints. Some of it is sitting in the mind. And I think it's time to take on a very bold new journey. We've now got a president who says we can do it. So I think that's going to drive a massive force. Now, you also said, what's the role of the CEO? So I completely agree with my friend here, Abdulmaj. It's really about creating the right environment where mentoring and coaching is part of life. And remember, there is formal and informal. In Standard Chartered, the informal coaching, including through the alumni, is massive. People who are still in the organization or who have left or part of the group. There are two other aspects I would like to just touch. As a CEO, you need to champion the cause. So create an environment, champion the cause. The third thing is, as you go through the journey, it's very important to be bold and set KPIs. Because if you don't know where you're going, as CEOs get motivated by KPIs. So that's extremely critical for us to put. But finally, it's also, be willing to be challenged. I like what my colleagues have told us. The world is evolving so fast. Whether it's gender, generations, or just even disability. Let's make this very much more inclusive workplace. And I think the best people to do that are CEOs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of our discussion. I think we could spend another hour with this panel. So many great insights and so many key takeaways. But I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you all for being here. We've learned so much, and I think we'll continue to learn from you as well. And also to thank IFC for hosting us today. Asanteni sana.
Thank you.
Today, our esteemed speakers and guests shared with us their personal philosophies and life lessons gained as women breaking barriers in the financial services sector in the past and in the present, and of course in other areas of their lives. There are similar themes in their story: preparation, hard work, perseverance, and reflection on what the challenging situation is and how to embrace and overcome such challenges. Whether in the boardroom or in public life, these women have made their mark in visible and invisible ways. As these women leaders prove that it can be done, this will make things easier, hopefully, for future generation of women who are aspiring for the same leadership position. The discussion in the second panel on organizational strategy to ensure that women's success is not just for exceptional few, but for the talented and high potentials that are illuminating and have the opportunity. And this should not just be strategies only. It should be backed up by actions and measurable steps. I want to iterate these strategies once again. Increasing gender diversity on board so that gender is mainstreamed across the organization. Investing in family-friendly workplace policies to support working parents. Offering personal development interventions to support women at critical middle to top-level management stage of their career. Also, to make lead to leadership a reality by sharing best practices for gender equality across the region and companies that have best practices in that area, and making gender diversity a CEO priority, which I've had a couple of CEOs mention, and eliminating barriers for women recruitment, retention, promotion, and leadership within the sector. As my colleagues have said in the forum, IFC continues to consider gender equality as a journey. We will continue to work with our partners on the finance to equal in Tanzania and across other regions where we bring this, and continue to act as a genuine facilitator, and then also a fellow learner in the journey. On behalf of my colleagues, I want to thank everyone who are here today, particularly our audience who are on the line. We appreciate your time and your attention. Thank you once again. Asante sana.